Welcome to the Aging Well podcast, where we explore the science, stories, and strategies that help us live longer, healthier, and more purposeful lives. I'm your host, Dr. Jeff Armstrong. My guest is a leading voice in nutritional science and longevity, Renee Fitton. Renee is a longevity dietitian and the director of education at L-Nutra, the company behind the Prolon fasting-mimicking diet. With a strong background in clinical nutrition and a passion for translating research into accessible strategies, Renee specializes in helping people, especially women over 40, optimize their health without making drastic lifestyle changes. In this conversation, we'll explore how fasting-mimicking diets offer powerful support during midlife, including their role in weight management, hormonal balance, and cellular health. Renee breaks down the science, clears up common misconceptions, and shares realistic ways to integrate the benefits of fasting into everyday life and help us to age well. So in terms of weight management, what kinds of results are realistic for midlife women using Prolon or similar products?
Depends on the individual. The beautiful, and you'll hear me talk about personalization a lot. I mean, as a dietitian, it is, and as you mentioned earlier, it's so critical. So we're never going to say everyone's losing 5 pounds of pure fat. Well, that is, by the way, it's about 5.7 in our healthy individuals that are already healthy weight after those 3 cycles. That's the average of maintained weight loss, by the way. This is even checking 3 months later and seeing how those results were maintained. So there's some great results even in healthy individuals. Now, we see that individuals that have more weight to lose will, of course, lose more weight. This is also really important because people who don't have weight to lose should still do a fasting mimicking diet because of the deep cellular benefits, the longevity benefits, the prevention benefits. And I don't want anybody listening to this to say, well, I'm already a healthy weight, so this doesn't apply to me. In fact, this still applies to you the exact same as anybody else, if not more, because this is a strategy, and one of the few strategies are still very hyper applicable to anybody. So for example, I myself am a already generally healthy weight. I've done this 15 times now. And so I do it once a quarter or 3 times a year. You may not have to do it as frequently, but you still will get incredible benefit and biological age benefits. Now, we'll talk about that in a bit, but that's even in healthy individuals. Let's go up to, for example, our study where we had patients who were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Here we have a BMI about of an average of 30. So this is a higher weight group. And here we see an average weight loss of about 22 pounds. And again, importantly, this is fat mass with no muscle loss. So these are equivalent to some of the drugs on the market. This is equivalent, or significantly more than oftentimes what you can see with a standard nutrition protocol as well. So we're seeing really, really significant weight loss. And again, with fasting mimicking, because we're not hacking the system, we're not saying, okay, we're going to throw a drug in here, we're going to block some pathways, we're going to, what we're doing instead is we're kind of getting out of the way, and we're letting our body decide where it wants to invest time and resources in repair, cleanup, and rejuvenation. And so it's beautiful because, we're talking about weight loss in this example. And yes, as I mentioned, we see that individuals who have less weight to lose will lose weight less, and individuals who have more weight to lose will lose more weight. All muscle protective, but we also see it in things like fasting glucose, HbA1c, all measures of your blood sugar control over time, your insulin resistance, even CRP, measure of inflammation in the body. We see it in our lipid markers. We see it even in our hepatic markers. So it is going to, in individuals where it's already healthy, stay at a healthy range. It doesn't get dangerously low, which is also something we always have to be mindful of. And in patients where it is elevated beyond a healthy level, it decreases significantly. So this is maybe, I don't know, there's so many cool parts, so I don't want to say it, but it is one of the coolest parts of the fasting mimicking diet is that our body will put energy where it needs to be spent in this repair, cleanup, across the board.
And I love that you kind of have done what we do often on this podcast, and that's poo-poo the whole idea of biohacking.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of the term biohacking, and we will not have anybody on this podcast that I think is a biohack. I mean, just the term hack to me is a negative term. That person's a hack. But and it's not even like we're manipulating the physiological systems doing something like fasting mimicking dieting. I mean, you can say you were kind of, we're hacking the fast, but it's not really that negative kind of hack. It's really optimizing the physiological systems to be able to do what they're intended to do. And it's just triggering the right responses in the body to keep us healthy.
Absolutely. And what I like to remind people is that while it seems like we are hacking the fast, we are actually not. We are doing the fast the way that our cells perceive and define a fast, which is in reality the definition of fasting. And it should be our dictionary definition of fasting, but it's not, because our dictionary definition is based off of the outdated idea, and fair enough, a more obvious and visible idea of what fasting is, which is you either don't eat or you do eat. And when you don't eat, you're fasting. When you do eat, you're not. But our cells that's not the definition that they're using. They're actually defining it based off of whether or not the nutrient sensing pathways on its surface are being turned on or off. I like to think of them like alarm bells or laser beams, like 007 style, that you can actually live below. You can do some pretty fancy moves and not trigger those sensors. And that's what we're doing. So we're actually just going based off of the definition that our cells have, as opposed to using this dictionary definition that is inaccurate.
What role do fasting mimicking diets play in digestive health, especially again with women or individuals who have kind of age-related gut sensitivity or discomfort?
Great question. So this is still early research right now. And when I say early, it means that we have research, but it is primarily done in mice models. Again, as a scientist, it's very important that we differentiate between the research that is done in humans and the research that is done in mice. So I will always call out if any of my studies are mice. This is one of them. So what we've been able to show in these mice models of IBD. Now, this is severe and chronic gut inflammation. And what we see is that in these models, when we add fasting mimicking, is that not only do we see that there is an improvement in the gut bacteria. So we see an increase in these healthy bacteria, lacto and bifidobacteria. But what's even cooler is that we see regeneration of the gut lining. We see that what has been so inflamed to a point where it is no longer functioning in the way that it should is actually being rebuilt. So this is incredible. This is where we get really excited about the possibilities of fasting mimicking, because we were very cautious to say, oh, it's going to activate stem cells. It's going to activate full regeneration. But what we're seeing even now in some cool human trials, which I'm happy to talk about, is regeneration, is stem cell activation. So in this gut health model, we're seeing even beyond just a healthy microbiome or the amount of healthy gut bacteria, but also the gut lining regeneration. And what I really love about that study is that not only in that study did they do the fasting mimicking diet, but they also did water only fast. And this is one of the only studies where they actually put kind of those two head to head. And it's really, unfortunately, one of the only places that we can put them head to head, because water only fasting is really tough to get through an IRB, or the people who decide what research you can safely do and you can't safely do. So we don't see a lot of these kind of head to head trials, but in this one, it's in mice. And they were able to show that the fasting mimicking diet showed drastically better results in terms of this regeneration and in terms of the repair, because it's more than just full calorie restriction and water only fasting. It also is the addition of healthy nutrition. And especially when we think about gut health, fiber is so important, and all of these nutrients are so important in this rebuilding and this growth. So fasting mimicking adds to the benefit. It does, yes, the cleanup, but it also does the rebuilding. So those two things together yield this incredible output. And And we are now doing, I think there's just been recently a study published in colitis patients. So in human trials, it's still early, but there's now more and more research that is going to be being done in this space. So very, very positive and optimistic about what this is going to be able to offer.
It's pretty cool. Except you put in my head this idea of like mice with the little packets, having to open those and eat their little bars and everything else, these tiny little Prolon packets.
Yeah, well, funny enough, they actually probably have it easier because they get everything unpacked for them and perfectly delivered in a nice little, they even have chefs delivering their food. The Prolon kits and the L-Nutra health kits make it very easy because the only thing you have to do is open up the kit. And in some cases, in fact, now, I don't know, Dr. Armstrong, if you have tried the brand new next gen kits, but they don't even require you to add water to your soups. They're already hydrated. You just open, pour, and heat, and they're ready to go. And on top of that, they are even tastier. The organoleptic properties, when you have it already hydrated, allows for even greater flavor. So those ones were even designed by a Michelin star chef.
Now, this soups didn't taste that bad in the powder form. I mean, I was not expecting high quality taste or anything, but they really weren't that bad.
I know. And now I have to get you this new next gen kit to try because it is even leveled up even more. Wow. It's truly incredible how those flavors have come through. The tomato soup that is included in here. It's like tomato soup. How fun how delicious could that really be? You open it up and you just smell this waft of fresh basil. I was amazed. I mean, these just came out. I've only done one kit with the next gen so far. But I'm hooked. I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah. I actually like the lentil soup that was in the original formulation. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The lentil curry, and that one's still available. So I think we're looking at trying to turn all of the soup flavors and the most popular ones into these next gen, and really getting through that flavor. Because the extra good part is that in the new soups you'll get whole beans and you'll get whole peas and you'll get whole whole kernels of quinoa. It's amazing. It's like.
Wow.
Even the food science is being elevated now.
Yeah. So anybody considering this is it's not torture. It's actually a very easy process and tastes good. And it's only 5 days. And that's another thing too, is with cost. I mean, if anybody's thinking, oh, well, these expensive programs, you have to spend far more money than you would on food. I kind of ran the numbers and it's actually cheaper than probably buying your average 5 days of food, especially in today's prices.
It absolutely is. Yeah. So I think we were running the numbers and it depends again where you are in the world. Like if you're in California and New York, your prices are going to be way more. If you are, outside of some of these major hubs, you might be a little bit less. On average, people are either spending the same per day or saving per day. When they're doing these 5-day programs. So yeah, we call it cost neutral.
Yeah, it's really amazing that it's that kind of price. So
yeah. And
let's see what else.
I was going to say that in the show notes, I think we're going to be sharing some additional reduced pricing courtesy of the Aging Well podcast.
Yes, and we'll do that, and we'll make sure people are linked to where they can find the product and everything else. So. Trying to think what else we have not talked about. We've talked about skin health and even just kind of reducing some of those more visible markers of aging, which is probably what most people are really most concerned about when it comes to aging. I don't think we fully understand the importance of autophagy in the aging process as well. When we're talking about aging well, right. We're starting to learn about it, but most people are I don't want wrinkles and I don't want a dad bod,
Which is totally fair. And the beauty of skin health, I would like to remind people, it sounds so vain, but it's really not, because our skin is entirely made up of our cells. It is an external representation of our health internally. It is showing us in many ways what is going on inside. So this is why when we see, deep cellular benefits and this autophagy, of course it's going to persist in our skin health because they are so closely tied. But another area that I think might be worth talking about is the literature that was published last year on biological age.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk
Tell
about
me.
it. Yeah. So with fasting mimicking, of course, we talk about how connected it is to longevity. So it was only a matter of time before there was literature to see what quantifiably are we able to achieve in terms of our biological age. Now, I'm sure on this podcast, the listeners are familiar with biological age, but it is essentially, instead of our chronological age, that number on our birth certificate that is kind of set in stone, biological age is the number that is assessing really how our body is behaving, or what age our body is more aligned with. And you can have, unfortunately, an older biological age than your chronological age, which we certainly don't want, but we can also have a younger biological age than our chronological age. So with a fasting mimicking diet, just done 3 times, that's it, we were able to show a reversal in biological age on average of 2.5, 15 days total across a 3-month period. And biological age reverses 2.5 years. In that same study, this was a simulation data. So we didn't actually follow people for 20 years, but we simulated the data because thankfully we were using some of the most robust data available, the NHANES data, for anybody who's familiar with nutrition research. It's a really hefty amount of data that we can use to make very educated guesses of what happens long term. What happens if you do this just 3 times a year for a period of 20 years? In this case, we looked at individuals from the age of 50 to the age of 70. So you do it 3 times a year from 50 to 70. And they showed a biological age reversal on average of 11.
Wow.
So this is, it's not even just about starting, it's just about maintaining. And in that same study, they also looked at prevention data. So, even if you're a healthy individual, right? What is this going to align with in terms of prevention of the top killers today, our chronic diseases that are afflicting Americans in the world today? Things like cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, even neurodegenerative diseases. What are we seeing in terms of risk reduction? And we were able to show that with done 3 times a year for this 20-year period, anywhere in healthy individuals from about 5 to 20% risk reduction. And then if you did have a biomarker out of range, again, coming back to people who need it more, we'll see even better results. We see that number jumping up from like 10 to 30% risk reduction. So this is again why, yes, you're going to see these longevity benefits, you're going to see these biological age benefits, and this is going to apply to you whether you're already, peak health or you are on a journey towards better health.
So what is some of your favorite advice to women who want to maintain the benefits of fasting between the cycles of the Prolon diet? And do you have any favorite nutrition or lifestyle tips?
I do. I have a lot. That we could do a whole other podcast on the other 25 days, because realistically, this takes up so much more of the time, right?
Right.
And I shouldn't even say 25 days, because long-term, it's going to be, the other 350 days a year, right? And so this is still very critical. One thing I would like to note is that every study that I shared today, it doesn't require nutrition change in the other days. They didn't force people to have a healthy diet in between. They wanted to really test what are the benefits of the fasting mimicking diet. So hypothetically, you could get incredible benefits even if you did nothing else. As a dietitian, I'm never going to recommendation. Of course, we would love if there were other healthy changes done in the 25 days. And some of those for women, we're going to focus in this perimenopause, menopause, but realistically, again, this applies to everybody. It's just especially important at this phase of life. Adequate protein. Now, I am not talking excessive protein, which is unfortunately today we're kind of starting to put a little too far along that spectrum, but adequate protein and weight-bearing exercise, critical. Another thing that I think we're starting to miss the point on, though, is that it's not just muscle and weight-bearing exercise. You still need aerobic activity and maximizing VO2 max. These are still important. So exercise in general, but focusing on these three major areas of exercise and making sure that you're finding time for each of these, ideally on a weekly basis. So, exercise, huge, and making sure that you have a varied exercise schedule and making sure that you are protecting that muscle by doing weight-bearing exercise, heavy weights, but work with a professional to make sure you don't just jump to the heaviest weight and hurt yourself, because that's actually the fastest way to stop exercising is when you hurt yourself. So, take it slow, take it easy. Sleep is right now one of my favorite spaces of lifestyle health. I am cautious as a dietitian not to kind of cross different areas. This is not my area of expertise, but we've seen so much research on sleep health and longevity and health. And it can actually, when you sleep better, allow your body to metabolize better. It allows you to exercise better. It reduces your stress. So it all is interconnected. With that being said, making sure that you have good sleep hygiene. So trying to fall asleep before, ideally, earlier on in the evening. So even if you can fit in 8 hours, but you're not going to bed until 1 a.m., that actually, again, pushes against your circadian pattern. So making sure that you're falling asleep, earlier in the evening, like 9-ish is kind of an ideal time, right? Staying consistent with that time, getting enough sleep, getting good quality sleep. I'm a big fan of Oura rings and, getting some of that data so that you can see, am I getting good quality sleep? If you are waking up every day after 7 or 8 or even 9 hours of sleep, still exhausted, something's up. Something's going on, and it's important that you are working with a professional to help kind of guide that sleep hygiene. So community support is going to be my last and final lifestyle piece, even though there are so many more. But I think community support is so important to just mention, because I think it gets overlooked too frequently, and people think, that's not going to help me lose weight, or that's not going to help me, get reduced cholesterol or whatever. But in fact, it is maybe one of the best ways to reduce stress, just generally. It is so important for longevity. We see it in some of these epidemiological studies where we look long-term at populations that have better community ties, are connected with their families, are, connected with friends, having meals together, all of these little things do add up. And I think it's one of the, unfortunately, it actually is kind of hard. You want to say easy, but it's tough today. So we have to make sure that we don't let this slip away, especially post-COVID, where we're working from home, we're doing everything from home. It's important that we are making the effort, and Facebook doesn't count, make sure that you are, even if it's picking up the phone, even if it's hopping on, a Skype, a Zoom, a FaceTime with your friends, family, making that effort, it also goes a very, very long way. So those are going to be, I think, my top 3 is what I narrowed down.
That's good. It sounds like you tapped into our 6 pillars, because we always talk about, the role of exercise, physical activity, healthy diet, maintaining a healthy body composition. One thing we didn't touch on was not smoking, but I think that's kind of getting to where nobody really smokes. There's people that smoke anymore, but it's reduced significantly. Yeah, it's vaping. And sleep. And then the big one that we've added to that list over the last year has been, I say, purposeful social connection, rather than, because that's where Facebook can be, well, you're socially connected, but you're not really connected.
Right.
And so, those are important.
It's feeling like we are doing it. But in fact, many of those things that we think are connecting us to people are fully disconnecting us or adding additional stress to our body, providing, some issues with our dopamine receptors and all, like the list goes on as to, and I am just as much dealing with this as anybody else. I mean, we're also connected to our phones, and it can become difficult to disconnect and connect to those that are physically around us. But it's just like with anything. And, one thing I love about you bringing up these 6 pillars is that pick one and just focus on that one. add a habit there. Once that habit is ingrained, pick your next favorite one, add a habit there. The beauty is we have so many ways to support our health through lifestyle change. You don't have to do them all perfectly from the jump. Find an area that is speaking to you, where you think you're going to get the most value out of it, where you think you might be the most likely to be able to induce a impactful change, and start there.
Baby steps. That's
Baby
what we
steps.
always say. Yeah. My favorite movie. What about Bob? So now for the question I ask of all my guests. What are you doing personally to age well?
Oh my goodness. This is a loaded question. Actually, interestingly, I just started some new, as I mentioned, I think everybody can find a new pillar, a new space to focus on, and constantly grow and adapt. Some of the things that I have recently added to my lifestyle that I think have been really impactful is morning gratitude and journaling. It sounds like it probably won't do that much, but I cannot stress the change that I have seen in terms of my morning stress. Or, even just like it perpetuates through the day. So that's going to be one. And then the other one that I just recently have started digging into the literature and seeing such shockingly impactful results is oral hygiene. I know, kind of a weird one to throw in there, but flossing, oral hygiene, twice a day, making sure you're doing that. I literally have my flossing pics right here because it's something that I really am not the best at, is flossing twice a day, every day. And so now I'm just trying to bring that in, tongue scraping, all of these cool things that can really support oral hygiene, which in fact is tied to longevity in ways that you might not believe, including some of the biomarkers associated with heart health, with cognitive health. It is all connected.
And we actually had a green dentist on the podcast last couple months, Dr. Patel, and she was basically making the argument you can add 10 years to your life with just proper dental hygiene. So
it's crazy. It's crazy. I was very excited when I saw that, because that one's not even in our pillars,
no.
It's just a whole new space that we can explore. So those are kind of my new ones right now. But of course, I always am optimizing sleep, nutrition, all of the other pillars.
I like the gratitude piece, because we're on a campaign here on this podcast to change the spelling of gratitude to have 2 T's in the middle. So it's an attitude of gratitude.
I love that. Yeah, and it is crazy. I will say one of the things that I noticed from just doing one of my biggest problems is that I will say I don't have enough time to do XYZ thing. And so when I was adding gratitude journaling into my routine, it was important that I made it as quick and dirty as I possibly could. How can I sneak this in? And so I just do 3 things in the morning that I'm grateful for. And it's so interesting to see how just taking that time in the morning to think of 3 things that you're grateful for. And it's important, at least in my practice, to make it 3 new things that I hadn't found prior. So you kind of start thinking and digging at things that you might be grateful for. And it's funny when you write down, I saw, this is kind of like a tangent, but I saw a little snail going across my path the other day. And I was like, how cute is that? This is what a beautiful thing life is, And I wrote that down. And then, when you start realizing that all of these little things can be grateful for, it makes it way easier to be grateful for other things. And it adds positivity and motivation and, reduce stress through the rest of your day. So, you gotta give things a chance. This was something, by the way, just in all transparency, I was like, absolutely not. This is so not my style, but I did it, and here we are. So
yeah, sometimes you just have to take that leap and do something you think is going to be uncomfortable, or you might not even think it's going to be worthwhile, and then just reap the benefits.
It's so true, and so true across all of those things that we've chatted about today.
Right. Well, let's see. I don't know that nutrition science really seems to excite you much, but what excites you most about the future of nutritional science and how it relates to aging well?
Oh gosh, I think there's so much. I think that we are still just at the nascency of what nutrition science is. We talk about how you can't prove anything right now. And I don't know if we ever will really be able to, right? Just based off of the definition of what we were chatting about. So there's so much more to know. I think we're really starting to tap into the immune health, gut health, autoimmunity too, which is starting to become more of a problem. I think there's so much opportunity there. Cognitive health, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, everything that's happening there. And by the way, everything that I just named is some of these preclinical trials that we're seeing with fasting mimicking specifically, where we're going to start seeing more research happening and more opportunities. So really excited about what's happening there, and super excited to see how AI is going to start producing better research. I really do believe that there is going to be, if it's not already happening, the integration of AI in research to make it happen faster, more effectively, and also allow us to take research that has already been done and find how it applies to us. Because when we talked about this personalization piece, it's really hard in the vast world of nutrition science to find the articles that apply to you. And I think that there's going to be a world where we can really start leveraging some of the technology that's coming out today to support. So just some of the things that excite me.
Yeah, that's interesting to me too, because I kind of started really my scientific path. I mean, my master's degree, we still had to look up journal articles in these books in the library. And now it's like, I don't have to go anywhere. I can just sit on my computer and I have access to thousands and thousands of articles that I have to tease through. And now with AI, the AI can even do the role of, well, this one's not relevant to what you want to do. This one is. Here's one you didn't find. And, we can get so much more information and be able to sort through it and hopefully take out some of the biases that we might even inject into our own kind of research. Because I tell it to my students, it's like, you pick the articles that suit your thesis. Yeah. You're not doing good research. You got to find the stuff that's going to say, whoa, no, wait a minute. This is counter to your research. You have to have both sides of the argument.
Absolutely. And it's so, as you mentioned, we are at this place now where we have so much research that it's like almost decision paralysis. And so thank God AI is here to allow us to do a better job at sifting through. I think it certainly is still it's going to continue to present challenges and opportunities. I prefer to think of them as opportunities, right? But now we have to make sure that we don't just like blindly trust AI. We still have to take all of the information that it's presenting to us and then look it up. Like whenever I use ChatGPT, which is like multiple times a day, it's incredible, but it will always give you the references that it cites, and I will pull up every single one and I will parse it and I will just take a peek. Is it in fact saying what it's saying? Because as intelligent as AI is, it will still miss things. It'll quote things incorrectly. So, but how incredible that it is getting you all of this information in one place and giving you the opportunity to use your time wisely in parsing out.
All right. Well, is there anything we missed today?
Oh my gosh, so much. Believe it or not, so much. There's so much more to talk about, but I hope that, at minimum, I hope that people are seeing the opportunity that fasting mimicking can bring, whether you are dealing with metabolic health concerns or you are just searching for longevity and healthy aging, or, maybe you're looking for some other experimental strategies for other areas of your health. This is really such an opportunity. And I would urge you, if this piqued your interest, go look up the research and see for yourself. Bring it up to your practitioner. Bring it up to people that you trust in reviewing the literature, and be amazed when you try it yourself. There are so many great resources. So if you are interested in doing this more for longevity, maybe a little bit of weight loss, just general health and prevention, I would recommend checking out prolonlife.com. That's PROLON life.com. You are interested in doing this for diabetes remission, for prediabetes support, for metabolic health support. You've noticed your blood pressure, cholesterol, a lipid panel, your liver enzymes, things like that. Your doctor is saying, ooh, there's some things we're worried about here. I would urge you to go check out a company called L-Nutra, Nutra health.com, L-Nutra health.com. And they add to the fasting mimicking program a full programmatic approach with dietitians, with physicians, with even biometric scales, with all these additional bells and whistles to make it especially safe and easy to move forward. And believe it or not, it sounds like it would add a significant price to it. It doesn't. It's almost the same price, but it's just designed to make it a little safer. So those are two resources that I think are important to share. And then if you're interested in connecting with me, you can connect with me on Instagram is usually the fastest place at Fitton Nutrition. That's FITTON Nutrition, or on my website, fittonnutrition.com.
Great. And we'll put all those links into the description notes. I really appreciate your time today. This was awesome. I wish we had about 3 more hours to talk.
Yep.
Maybe what we'll have to do is have you back on in another maybe 6 months or something like that, and we can kind of revisit how the literature has grown over that period of time.
It'll be a lot.
And just keep educating people in this field that is ever growing. And that's what I love about it. And even in my field in exercise science, it's constantly changing and evolving and growing. And it's when we get static and stuff that life gets really boring. Mm-hmm. We're starting to look for where we can grow in our sciences, really. Yeah. So I appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep aging well.
I'm here for it. Thank you so much for having me.